You're listening to the Platform Launchers podcast. I'm John Stange. It's great to have you with us again this week because here we talk about building, growing, and monetizing your online platform. We talk about how to take a passion, turn it into a platform that becomes your ultimate paycheck. And each week we talk about topics that are hopefully going to be useful to you as you just work your way through this process. This is a process that I have been through and can say I continue to go through. It's a process that those who are part of our members club are in the midst of. And we were just having a conversation with our members just a few moments ago before we went live with the podcast here on the subject of crowdfunding. And that's what we're going to talk about this week. Crowdfunding. I don't know if you're already familiar with that or if that's something that is a new concept to you, but crowdfunding it's really one of the most amazing opportunities that we have as people who are creating online platforms to actually monetize the content and the platforms that we're putting out there. And we're going to talk a little bit about crowdfunding this week. I'm also going to specify multiple ways that you can reward your crowdfunding supporters. So I want you to think about both of those things right now. Just the idea of crowdfunding, if you like the idea, if you're comfortable with it, and if you've been involved in crowdfunding and what it looks like to reward those who support your content. I'll tell you that when I first started creating digital content, when I first started developing my online platform, I was at a season where my personal finances were very tight, and maybe I should say very, very tight. And, when I look back at that season, I'm grateful for that season, very grateful for all the lessons that I learned during that time, even though I will admit to you that it was certainly stressful. But just the same, when I started creating platform-related content and sharing it online, it actually felt like a little bit of a financial risk to start paying for things like podcast hosting and website hosting and all the sorts of things that go along with that because my cash flow at the time was quite minimal. And so it felt like a little bit of a risk to be doing these things. But I also knew that if I was going to keep developing content for the long term, I would need to come up with a few revenue sources to help cover my costs. And one of the first options that I heard about at the time was crowdfunding. And I will admit to you that I did not know exactly how it would work, but I was curious enough about it that I decided to look into it. And I started learning a little bit more about it and some of the options that were available to me. At the time, I was podcasting, and it turned out that my podcasting host, they had a crowdfunding source baked into their platform. I don't know that I fully realized that at first, but then I noticed that they had an option like that if people used the specific app that went along with that podcasting host, that people could participate in crowdfunding. And I thought, all right, well, maybe I'll give this a try. And through that, what I did was I encouraged listeners to just consider supporting the costs of creating the show. The fact that I had to buy some equipment, the fact that I was upgrading certain things, the fact that I was paying for hosting, even the fact that I was committing a certain amount of my time to this. I just asked if people would participate in the crowdfunding, and I had no idea if people would do this or not. But what I asked was that they maybe just consider giving just $1 a month, which certainly is not some excessive amount or anything like that. And I wanted to see what would happen. And what ended up happening is very, very quickly, almost as soon as I put that out there, to my surprise, several people committed to do so. Several people committed to support what I was doing at $1 a month. And then over time, that started increasing. People started contributing $5 a month or $10 or $20, et cetera, $40 sometimes. And I thought, all right, well, this is useful. This is certainly helping me fund the cost of my online platform development. And in time, I also added a website with a blog. I didn't have that right away when I was creating my podcasts and when I was creating my books initially. There was no website to really direct people back to. But when I created a website, I decided, all right, part of the website, I'm going to give people an opportunity to participate in crowdfunding right from the website. So I placed a crowdfunding support link right there on the website, and I used PayPal as the payment processor for that specific thing. And again, to my great surprise, people used it. And I have to say, they were very generous in their support. I remember at one point, and it almost, I wasn't sure how to like react to this, but I remember one person sending $500 through that crowdfunding option. And I thought, wow, that was unexpected. And then that was followed up by somebody else soon after contributing $1,000. And again, I thought, I didn't foresee this when I set this up. And then for a period of time, I decided, you know what, my costs of putting this content out there are now covered. And so I took the crowdfunding option away. And then I started getting complaints from my audience saying, "Hey, where'd that go? We wanted to be able to show support." And I replied and said, "Well, my costs are covered now." They're like, "Yeah, but you're spending all this time doing this. We want to be able to show thank you to you." And so they asked that I put it back up. They literally asked me to put the crowdfunding option back up on the website. So I put it back up on the website, and I kid you not too long ago, I received my largest crowdfunding gift ever. Somebody sent $1,600. I don't know why they selected 1,600, but someone through that crowdfunding source, through that crowdfunding link on my website, sent $1,600 to support what I was doing. I was floored. I was encouraged. I was grateful. And in time, what I ended up learning was that there are many options out there for crowdfunding. There are options like Patreon. Patreon allows you to receive monthly support from your users and listeners, and then send various forms of thank yous through digital content back to them. Then there are other services like Buy Me a Coffee. If you've never checked out buymeacoffee.com, I'd highly recommend that. That's one of my absolute favorites. But both Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee, both are excellent ways to give your audience the option to help you cover the costs of what you're producing. And I'll even say, like I just mentioned in my example, even if your costs are more than covered, there are people who will support you on top of that because, again, they value the time that you're putting into creating good content for them. They like consuming it. They want to say thank you. They're grateful that you're part of their daily routine. And it's a special thing. It's a great way that a host and an audience can connect with one another. Now, if you go down the route of utilizing crowdfunding sources, I should say, like PayPal or Buy Me a Coffee or Tip Jar or Patreon or anything else, it's a very common thing to do to offer your supporters something special to say thank you. Typically, there's some way, some creative way that you think of thanking those supporters. You don't have to do this, by the way, but it's good to do it. And if you do it, I actually think that it can generate goodwill and might potentially encourage some of your supporters to support what you're doing on a regular basis instead of only once. And so I thought it would be interesting for us to just examine a few different ways that we can reward our crowdfunding supporters and say thank you for their contributions. And so I just have a quick list of 6 easy ways that you can thank or reward your supporters. Very easy things to implement, nothing complicated, but certainly useful to do. And this is a list of 6 things that I've either utilized personally or people that I respect in the platform development space are utilizing some of these options. And I'd certainly be interested in hearing some of your reaction to this. If you're listening to us via the podcast, send me a message, john@platformlaunchers.com. I'd love to hear some of your ideas related to this. If you're watching us on YouTube, just comment on some of your ideas related to some of these options in the comment section. But here's 6 easy ways that you could reward your supporters and say thank you for their contributions. The first one is this: offer exclusive content as a reward. So you could offer your crowdfunding supporters exclusive access to content that is not available to the general public. So this could include early access to videos or early access to blog posts or podcasts, anything like that that you're creating. Or you could even offer them behind the scenes footage of your creative process. I know one of the things that I've done at one point, I was giving away a book that you could only receive if you were one of the supporters for my crowdfunding, and I would give it away for free. And that was something that I utilized for a while. So exclusive content can be one way that you choose to thank your crowdfunding supporters. Another one, and this is one that I use a lot, by the way, number 2 on my list. Maybe I should have put it at number 1 because it's something that I use quite a bit. But personalized messages go a long way when you're trying to thank your crowdfunding supporters. Sending personalized thank you messages to your supporters, either as a group or individually, I actually prefer individually, is a way to just, demonstrate that appreciation. You could also offer to answer their questions or maybe give them personal advice on some of their own creative projects. I actually know of one content creator. He goes by Jacob the Carpetbagger, and he has a travel channel on YouTube. And what he does is he sends a handwritten postcard. I'm assuming these postcards are from the different places that he's traveled, but he'll send a handwritten postcard each month to everyone who supports his YouTube channel, the crowdfunding that he has associated with it, as long as they contribute at least $3 a month toward what he's doing. If they contribute at least $3 a month, he sends each supporter a handwritten postcard. I think that's kind of a fun idea. I'm pretty sure it's one of the main ways that he's funding his entire lifestyle. I actually think that he's earning enough from it that this is kind of what he's doing for a living, unless I'm misinterpreting what he seems to be sharing online. But I thought that was a creative way to say thank you. I love sending personal thank yous, though, to those that participate in my crowdfunding. All right, but a third way you can thank supporters, and this could be a little pricey, so you have to kind of think this through, but I've seen people do this well. You could thank people with merchandise. So you could create merchandise that's exclusive to your crowdfunding supporters. It could be something like a t-shirt, or it could be stickers. And I see some people use stickers a lot because they're inexpensive to mail. But it could also be something like a poster or some sort of signed content that you could send out that's not difficult to mail. You could even offer limited edition items that are only available to supporters who have been with you for a certain amount of time. Maybe you could just celebrate the anniversary of people that have been supporting you over a fixed period of time, if that's data that you hold onto. But merchandise can be another way that you use to thank your crowdfunding supporters. Another great way that you could just thank your supporters is through discounts. You can offer your crowdfunding supporters discounts on things like your existing products. So if you have just a list of digital products that you offer on your platform, that's one way that you could say thank you to them. You could offer discounts on your services. So if you offer some sort of business service or coaching or something like that, you could offer discounts on your courses, whatever it may be. You could offer a discount to those that choose to support you. And I actually think that has the potential to become a real win-win scenario that might help you retain long-term support, maybe make more sales, maybe even just demonstrate a spirit of generosity toward those who have gone out of their way to be generous toward you. All right, number 5 on my list is this: community involvement. And I don't mean like, showing up in their neighborhood, but I actually mean, the idea of creating a private community or some sort of an online forum where your crowdfunding supporters can connect with you and with each other. So everybody gets the chance to interact with this. And the only way to really be part of the community is to become a crowdfunding supporter. I think that this could be a great way to foster a sense of community and build relationships with some of the most dedicated members of your audience. I can also testify to the fact that this can be a lot of fun. Online communities with other like-minded people can be a lot of fun. For the past few years, I've either started some or engaged in a few, and I have enjoyed them very much. And you will be surprised to see how many healthy, long-term friendships can get built by doing this. And the cool thing is you actually have the privilege to be the catalyst for getting it all going. And so, just starting some sort of a community for your supporters there, file that away in the back of your mind. It could be a very useful way to actually, connect and serve people and help them out. All right, another way that you could be someone, this is number 6 on my list. Another way that you could, really say thank you to your supporters is just through recognition. And I see this happen a lot on YouTube. I've also seen this happen in different podcasts and things like that. But you can give your supporters a shout out on social media or in your content, or you can even feature them in a video or a blog post. But basically, by just giving some sort of public recognition to your supporters, this can help show your appreciation to them. Just let them know how much you genuinely value them. I will confess to you that I still get excited if I hear my name mentioned on some of my favorite podcasts or YouTube channels. I was recently listening to one of my favorite podcasts, and one of the hosts referenced my name, and it was a big surprise to me. And I thought, you know what, like, that was kind of fun. I didn't expect that. That was really neat to hear. And I think we all feel like just feeling noticed is something that helps deepen a sense of connection between an audience and a host. And when you're on the receiving end of that kind of generosity, it feels nice. And if it's in your power to demonstrate that to somebody else, why not? Right. So those are 6 ways that I think could be useful to really just say thank you to your crowdfunding supporters. Exclusive content, personalized messages, merchandise, discounts, community involvement, and recognition. Now, ultimately, the key is to offer your supporters something that they will find valuable and that shows your appreciation for their support. And by doing that, you can build a strong and dedicated community of fans who I think will continue to support you over the long term. And in some cases, you may not need to do anything complicated or time consuming to demonstrate your appreciation for those who participate in your crowdfunding campaigns. You might find that just a very simple thank you is sufficient. And I'll give you a personal example. You heard me mention just a few moments ago how one of my favorite crowdfunding sources is Buy Me a Coffee. And if you're not familiar with how their system works, basically, here's what it looks like. Your supporters, they show you their appreciation by buying you a coffee, which means they send you gifts in $5 increments, and each one counts as having bought you a coffee. So if someone buys you a coffee through Buy Me a Coffee, it's the same as them saying, hey, here's $5. Go buy yourself a good coffee. And you know, they could do that in increments, right? They could buy you 2 coffees and give you $10, right? For instance, yesterday, a podcast listener bought me 10 coffees, which is to say she gave me a crowdfunding gift of $50. That was very encouraging. And one of my favorite things that comes with Buy Me a Coffee is that people, they take the time to write you a note. There's a note that goes with that. So when they offer that support, when they buy you a coffee, they have the option to write you a note. And so it's a great way to actually develop a connection with your listening audience or your reading audience. I'll tell you what, every time someone does that, every time they buy me a coffee on that website, I make sure to reply to their gift with a word of thanks. I don't skip anyone. You know, as long as there's something there to reply to, I don't skip anyone because I genuinely appreciate their willingness to support what I'm doing. And besides, I look at this and I think to myself, how hard is it to share a simple thank you? It takes mere moments to type, and I would feel rude if I didn't do that after being blessed by the generosity of others. So as we kind of wrap this thought up for this week, let me just kind of throw some questions out to you. Do you have any crowdfunding options in place on your platform? Is that something you have in place already? I asked our members club about that just a few moments before we went live with the podcast this week, and some did, some did not. We've been thinking about it. We've been talking about it. Those of you that have had some crowdfunding options, think about this. Have you noticed that your audience seems to prefer one crowdfunding option over another? I've definitely noticed that with my audience. They use Buy Me a Coffee much more than they used Patreon. I still find that they like the general options that I have set up through PayPal as well. So it's kind of a mix of the two of them. They don't use the one through my podcast host as much as they did in the past, but I think that that's because I've got the others set up. But you know, if you have some options set up, your audience will tell you what they prefer by showing you what they utilized. And I'll even ask this. This question came up from one of our members just a few minutes ago as well about promoting these options. These you can put your crowdfunding options in place, but if you never tell people they exist, you're missing an opportunity. I think it's useful if you really want to get a crowdfunding campaign going, mention it briefly at the start of your podcast, mention it in your blog posts, mention it in your newsletters, mention it in the show notes of your podcast, mention it in your videos. You could do different things like that. Just bring it up from time to time. You don't have to elaborate on it for any lengthy period of time. Just let people know that it exists. And there are some people that will utilize it just by virtue of hearing that it's even an option. But if you decide to start covering your platform expenses with crowdfunding, I just want to say, always remember to say thanks. Those who appreciate you and those who appreciate the content you create, they will be grateful for your thoughtfulness. and just make sure that if someone goes out of their way to support what you're doing, that you follow that up with a thank you. It could be just a simple typewritten note, could be a postcard, could be something else special that you send their way, but acknowledge it. It's a special thing that they participated in your crowdfunding, and I'm certain that they would find it encouraging to hear back from you in the process. Um, Before we finish up this week, I just want to let you know about a free resource that we have over at platformlaunchers.com. It's a very useful thing if regardless of where you are in the process of platform development. So if you're thinking about ideas and trying to get something figured out where you want to start, we have a free 21-day platform development planning guide right there on the homepage of our website. You can download it for free instantly. And what it's going to do is over the course of 21 days, it's going to step by step help you map out your plan to build an online platform. And it's going to demystify some of the things that many people find very complicated when they're trying to figure out what their idea is going to look like. So just go to platformlaunchers.com. We'll help you figure out the ways in which you can structure and even monetize your online platform. And you can download a free copy of our 21-day platform development planning guide right there on the homepage. But that's it for us this week. Thank you again for joining us. As always, I'm super encouraged by those of you that tune in every week. Very, very grateful for that. Looking forward to interacting with you and connecting with you in the future. And in the meantime, have an awesome week, and we will talk to you again very soon. Take care.